I was 23 when my mother died. Cancer. Fast. Brutal. 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. My father had died when I was 5. Car accident. I grew up with only her. My mother was my entire world. At the wake, my Aunt Margaret showed up with her 2 children, Daniel and Rebecca, cousins I barely knew. Margaret was my mother's older sister. They were never close. Something about old family fights, resentments nobody explained. But there she was, crying loudly, hugging the casket, making a scene. My baby sister! My poor baby sister! I stood there in my black dress, numb, empty. The funeral home smelled like lilies and cleaning products. Margaret's performance was theatrical, dramatic sobs clutching tissues. I barely felt anything. After the burial, Margaret approached me in the parking lot. "Sarah, honey," her voice was soft, concerned. "You shouldn't be alone right now. Come stay with us for a few days." I shook my head. "I'm fine." "You're not fine." She placed her hand on my shoulder. "Your mother would want me to take care of you." I didn't have the energy to argue. I need to be alone." Margaret's eyes filled with tears again. "Of course, but if you need anything at all, I'm here." She hugged me. I stood there, rigid, feeling nothing. The first week was a fog. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, sleep, repeat. The house felt wrong without her. Too quiet, too empty. Every room held memories that cut like glass. Her coffee mug still sat in the sink, her reading glasses on the nightstand, her sweater draped over the living room chair. I couldn't move them, couldn't touch them. It felt like erasing her. Margaret called on day 8. "Sarah, honey, we need to talk about your mother's affairs. There's paperwork, legal things." My voice came out flat. "Okay." "I've already spoken with a lawyer. He can see us next Tuesday." "Fine." "I know this is overwhelming, but I promise I'll handle everything. You don't have to worry." I should have questioned that, but I was drowning in grief, and she threw me an anchor. I grabbed it. Tuesday came. Margaret arrived in her pristine Mercedes, designer sunglasses, expensive perfume. I climbed in wearing the same sweatpants I'd worn for 3 days. She didn't comment. We drove downtown in silence. She made small talk about the weather, about Rebecca's new job, about Daniel's girlfriend. I stared out the window and said nothing. The lawyer's office was small, cramped, a strip mall location between a tax service and a check cashing place. That should have been my first warning, but I wasn't thinking clearly. The lawyer was in his 50s, thinning hair, cheap suit. He smiled too much. "Miss Chen, please have a seat." I sat. Margaret sat beside me, hands folded primly. The lawyer opened a folder, cleared his throat. "Your mother's estate is relatively straightforward. She owned her home outright, valued at approximately $250,000. That property passes to you, Sarah." I nodded numbly. "As for her other assets, savings, investments, life insurance policies..." He paused, glanced at Margaret. "Those have been designated to Margaret Foster as the primary beneficiary." The words didn't register. "What?" "Your mother left her liquid assets to your aunt, approximately $1,200,000. I blinked. That doesn't make sense." Margaret squeezed my hand. Sweetheart, your mother and I talked about this extensively. She worried you'd be overwhelmed managing that much money. She wanted me to protect you. But she never said she didn't want to upset you. The lawyer slid papers toward me. It's all here in the will. My hands trembled as I read the document. Beneficiary, Margaret Foster, dated 3 months before her death. I'll manage everything, Margaret added. When you're older, when you're ready. The lawyer pushed more papers. Sign here and here. I signed. My hands shook so badly the signatures barely looked like my name. Margaret drove me home. Your mother loved you so much, she said softly. She wanted to make sure you were protected. I stared at my house, the house I now owned, the only thing my mother left me. When will I get access to the rest? I asked. Margaret smiled gently. When you're ready, sweetheart. She drove away. I walked into my empty house, and I believed her.
The first year was hell. I moved through life like a ghost. Work, home, sleep, repeat. I worked as a junior graphic designer. The pay was barely enough. I lived off my mother's leftovers until they ran out. Then ramen, rice, pasta. The house needed repairs. Roof leaks, furnace noises. I couldn't afford to fix any of it. Margaret called once a month. How are you doing, honey? Fine. Do you need anything? No. Good. Your mother would be proud. She never offered my inheritance, just checked in, made sure I was surviving. Surviving, not living. Meanwhile, Margaret bought a new house. I saw it on Facebook. Rebecca posted photos. Massive, modern, Lakeview. So proud of Mom for her new home. That house cost at least $1 million. Daniel graduated and went to law school. Rebecca got engaged. Her ring looked like it cost more than my car. Then came the wedding. I wasn't invited. Destination wedding, Italy, 200 guests. Rebecca's dress alone cost more than my entire yearly salary. I sat in my leaking house eating ramen, staring at photos of a luxury wedding, paid for by my dead mother's money. I didn't fight it. Not yet. I was too broken. Maybe Margaret was right. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe my mother really didn't trust me. That's what grief does. It makes you believe lies. It makes you accept things you should never accept. It makes you small. But then, something changed. The discovery. 3 years after my mother's death, the roof leak got worse. Water damage spread through the attic. I climbed the rickety ladder with a flashlight. The attic was a graveyard of my childhood. Boxes, toys, decorations. I moved a stack of bins labeled Xmas 1998 and saw it. A small, fireproof safe, covered in dust, old, heavy, no key. I took it downstairs, stared at it for 20 minutes, then got my toolbox. 2 hours later, the lock broke. Inside, papers. So many papers. Financial documents, account statements, insurance policies, all in my name. My mother had been rich, not comfortable. Rich.
My father's family had left him everything when he died. Old money, real estate, stock portfolios, investments growing for 40 years. When he died, it all went to my mother, who put it in trust for me. $4.2 million to be released on my 25th birthday, managed by a trustee, James Patterson, not Margaret. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. There was a letter, handwritten, My mother's handwriting. The same handwriting from birthday cards, grocery lists, notes on the fridge. I opened it. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry, baby. She wrote about wanting more time, wanting to see me graduate, get married, have children. Everything I have is yours, every penny. She wrote about the trust, that Patterson would give me everything at 25. She wanted me to grow first, to be strong, to understand life before having wealth. But then, Sarah, baby, don't trust Margaret. My breath stopped. I know she's my sister. I know I should say nice things, but I can't lie to you. Margaret has always been jealous, bitter, controlling. She explained how Margaret tried to take over after my father died, tried to control her life, her money, her parenting. I cut her off. She never forgave me. She doesn't know about the trust. If she knew, she would try to take it. If anything seems wrong, call James Patterson. This is yours, Sarah. Don't let anyone take it. I love you forever, Mom. I read it once, twice, 7 times. Then I started hyperventilating. Margaret lied. The will? Fake. The lawyer? Fake. The story about protecting me? Fake. She stole $4 million from me. While I grieved, while I struggled, while I ate ramen in a broken house. She bought mansions, cars, funded law school, paid for a luxury European wedding. All with my money, my mother's money, money meant for me. The rage was slow, cold, clean. I sat at the kitchen table until 3 a.m., staring at the documents, staring at my mother's letter. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to destroy her, completely, methodically, without mercy.
Margaret had 3 years to confess. 3 years to do the right thing. 3 years to return what wasn't hers. She chose greed. She chose theft. She chose betrayal. Now she would pay. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Then I searched for James Patterson. Found him immediately. High-profile estate attorney. Impeccable reputation. I called. Patterson and Associates, how may I help you? My name is Sarah Chen. My mother was Linda Chen. I believe she had a trust. Silence. Please hold. 2 minutes. Then a man's voice. Miss Chen, I've been trying to reach you for 3 years. My stomach dropped. He explained that letters had been returned marked return to sender. Dozens of them. Someone had intercepted them, or rerouted them, or thrown them away. Can you come today? He asked. Yes. His office was on the top floor of a glass building. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, quiet air conditioning. He slid a folder toward me. Thick, official, my name printed on the tab. This is your trust, he said softly. $4.2 million. Investments, accounts, legal documents. He pointed to the date. Established 4 months before she died. Your mother wanted everything protected. I swallowed. What did she leave Margaret? He didn't hesitate. $10,000. That was it. 10,000, not millions. I mumbled. Margaret told me my mother left her everything. He exhaled sharply. She lied, and the will she showed you was fraudulent. He showed me the real document. Clear, undeniable. Can I press charges? Yes. Inheritance fraud, forgery, possibly elder abuse. How long? 2 to 3 years. Courts are slow. I shook my head. I don't want to wait.
What do you want? I want her to feel everything I felt. He studied me, then said the one thing that changed everything. Hypothetically, if someone confronted her with undeniable evidence and gave her a choice between restitution or public destruction, results could come quickly. I smiled, coldly. Hypothetically, I said. He nodded. Hypothetically. I left his office with copies of everything, the truth, the proof, and a plan. The next 2 months were dedicated to one thing: revenge. I hired a forensic accountant. $5,000. Money I didn't have. I borrowed it. Worth it. He traced every dollar Margaret spent since my mother's death. The house, $1.2 million. 2 cars, $150,000. Daniel's law school, $180,000. Daniel's condo down payment, $420,000. Rebecca's wedding, $380,000. Starting life fund, $200,000. Vacations, $90,000. Clothes, jewelry, furniture, $180,000. Total, $2.8 million. All from my mother's accounts, my accounts. I built a case file, bank statements, forged documents, the fake will, emails between Margaret and the fake lawyer, side-by-side comparisons of signatures, photos, receipts, screenshots, every piece of evidence showing how deep the theft went. I also reached out to Rebecca's husband, Tom. He worked in finance, smart, rational, honest. I sent one email from an anonymous account. Your wife's family money came from fraud. Margaret Foster stole Sarah Chen's inheritance. Ask Rebecca where the wedding money came from. Ask her why Sarah lives in poverty while you all live in luxury. The truth is coming soon. You deserve to know. I didn't expect much. 3 days later, Tom unfriended Margaret and Daniel on Facebook. He was asking questions. Good. Very good. Then I waited for the perfect moment, Rebecca's 30th birthday. Margaret was throwing a massive party at her mansion, paid for with my stolen money. 200 guests, live band, catering, champagne fountains. The invitation arrived in the mail, cream cardstock, gold lettering. It would mean so much if Rebecca came. I RSVP'd yes. The next day, Margaret called. Sarah, I'm so happy you're coming. I kept my voice soft, warm, sweet. I wouldn't miss it. She had no idea. I bought a new dress. Simple. Black. Understated. I wanted to look small, harmless, forgettable. I wanted them to underestimate me. The night of the party, I arrived exactly on time. The mansion glowed with warm lights, valet parking, waiters with champagne, string lights across the backyard. Every corner whispered the same truth. My mother paid for all of this. Margaret spotted me instantly. Sarah, sweetheart. She rushed toward me, arms opened wide, performing affection like a stage actress. She hugged me. Tight, insincere. You look so thin. Have you been eating? Are you taking care of yourself? I'm fine. Thanks for inviting me. Oh, of course, honey. Rebecca will be thrilled you're here. Rebecca wasn't thrilled. She barely looked at me. Her dress probably cost more than the monthly salary I used to earn. Daniel was there too, laughing, drinking, wearing a tailored suit. His law school, paid with my inheritance, had been good to him. Tom stood beside Rebecca. He smiled politely at me, but I saw tension in his jaw. He knew. He just didn't know everything yet. The party was extravagant, dripping with excess. Lobster hors d'oeuvres, imported champagne, a sculpted ice fountain, a live band flown in from out of state. All purchased with stolen money.
I walked through the party like a ghost, quiet, observing, smiling politely, letting them think I had accepted my place, letting them think I was still the weak, grieving girl they had manipulated. But inside, I was coiled steel. After dinner, after speeches, after the cake was cut, the moment arrived. I found Margaret near the bar. "Aunt Margaret, can we talk privately?" She blinked, concerned, curious. "Of course, sweetheart. Is everything okay?" "I just need to tell you something. It's important." She guided me to her study, closed the door behind us. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked gently. I placed my purse on her desk, opened it, pulled out the folder. "I found something," I said softly. Her breath caught, just barely. "Oh, what did you find?" "A safe in my mother's attic with documents inside." Her breath caught. I opened the folder, laid the papers out neatly on her expensive wooden desk. Proof, truth, her doom. "You stole my inheritance."
Silence. The word stole hung in the air like smoke. Margaret swallowed. Hard. I didn't know what you think you found. "You stole $4.2 million, I continued calmly. "My mother left everything to me through a trust. She left you $10,000, nothing more." Her face drained of color. "That's not... Your mother wanted me to..." "You forged her will." Margaret flinched like I'd slapped her. "You hired a fake lawyer." I placed the forged document beside the real one, side by side. "You didn't need training to see the difference. You lied to me while I was grieving, while I could barely stand, while I was drowning." I pulled out bank statements, highlighted transactions, screenshots from her social media, the house, the cars, Daniel's law school, Rebecca's wedding, all of it, every penny traced back to accounts in my name. Margaret sank into her chair. Her voice was a whisper. "Sarah, please, listen." No. It was the first time I had ever cut her off. "I trusted you," I said, "and you used my grief to rob me." Tears filled her eyes. They weren't real. "I can explain." "You can't." I pulled out the final document, the one that ended any hope she had. A written statement from James Patterson. Her eyes widened. "He knows," I said. "He has everything. The real will, the real trust, the dates, the signatures." Margaret's hand shook violently. You don't understand. If this gets out..." "Oh, I understand perfectly." I leaned forward. "You destroyed my life. For 3 years. You let me starve. You let me drown in debt, while you lived like royalty." She covered her face with her hands, started sobbing. Real sobs, finally. "I'm begging you, please, don't ruin my family. Don't ruin my kids." Her kids. Her precious kids. The ones who enjoyed my mother's money while I lived off ramen. "You ruined my life," I said quietly, "and now I am simply returning the favor." She looked up, eyes red, mascara streaking. What do you want?" I smiled faintly. "Everything you stole." "And what if I refuse?" she whispered. "Then I let the world see what you are. The police, the IRS, your country club, your husband's employer, your daughter's in-laws, everyone." Margaret sobbed harder. "Please, Sarah, please." "You took everything from me," I said. "My money, my future, my safety, my dignity." I stepped back.
Let the silence stretch. You have one chance, I said finally. One. She looked up, desperate. What do I do? Confess, I said softly.
Confess to everything. All of it. And pay back every cent you stole. Margaret shook her head violently. I can't. I don't have that kind of money anymore. You had enough to buy a mansion. I slid a photo of her house across the desk, and 2 luxury cars, and a law school tuition, and a wedding in Italy. She stared at the photo as if it were a murder weapon. I can't pay it all back, she whispered. You'll sell the house. She gasped. You'll liquidate your assets. No, Sarah, please. You'll return every dollar, and you will do it quietly, or I will destroy you publicly. Margaret broke, collapsed forward, hands trembling, sobbing quietly into her palms. I'll lose everything, she choked out. You should have thought about that before stealing everything from me. Silence. Then, what about my children? She whispered. What about them? I asked. They didn't know. I tilted my head. Are you sure about that? She went still, because she knew, deep down, they knew. The money wasn't hers. Your children will deal with the consequences of your actions, I said coldly, just like I did. She sobbed harder. When she finally spoke, her voice was broken. What happens if I do confess? You pay everything back. You sign a written admission of guilt. You resign from every board, every charity, every club you're part of, and you disappear. And if I don't? I go public. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. I already have everything prepared, I said. Emails drafted, evidence compiled, timed releases. Once I press send, there's no stopping it. Margaret inhaled shakily. You planned all of this? She whispered. Yes. For how long? 3 months. And you came here tonight just to watch you fall apart, I said. She closed her eyes. Tears slid down her face. I'll do it. Please, just don't send anything. I'll do whatever you want. I nodded once. Good. I gathered the papers, placed them back in my folder, turned to leave. Sarah? Margaret's voice cracked behind me. I paused. Will we ever be okay? I looked over my shoulder. No. Then I walked out of the room.
When I stepped out of Margaret's study and back into the party, the air felt different, lighter, cleaner. The music played. People laughed. Rebecca posed for photos. Daniel bragged about his new job. All of them oblivious. They had no idea their world was already collapsing. Tom, Rebecca's husband, spotted me from across the room. Our eyes met. He gave the smallest nod. He knew, or at least he knew enough. I walked straight past everyone and out the front door. I didn't say goodbye. The next morning, at precisely 8 a.m., Margaret called me. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Sarah, she said, voice shredded from crying. I'm ready. Good, I said, flatly. We meet at Patterson's office in 2 hours. She sniffed. Okay. She sounded hollow, like someone who had finally met a wall they couldn't climb. 2 hours later, she arrived. No makeup, eyes swollen, clothes wrinkled. Patterson looked at her with the same expression one reserves for criminals walking into court. Mrs. Foster, he said, please sit. The meeting lasted 4 hours. 4 hours of reviewing statements, comparing documents, confirming forged signatures, calculating restitution, laying out criminal exposure. Margaret cried through the entire meeting. Patterson didn't flinch once. By the time we finished, the terms were written clearly. 1. Margaret would liquidate all assets. 2. The house would be listed immediately. 3. Both cars would be sold. 4. Savings accounts transferred. 5. A legally binding confession signed. 6. Full restitution paid within 6 months. Patterson drafted the confession. It was brutal. I, Margaret Foster, knowingly committed inheritance fraud, forged legal documents, and stole a total of $4.2 million from my niece, Sarah Chen. Margaret's hands shook as she signed it. This remains sealed, Patterson reminded her, unless you fail to comply with the repayment schedule. Her voice broke. I understand. I watched her sign, watched her hands tremble, watched her world collapse. I felt nothing.
Over the next 6 months, everything unraveled for Margaret. Her mansion went on the market. People whispered. Neighbors speculated. Rebecca's friends noticed her mother stopped posting photos, stopped hosting parties, stopped smiling. Daniel's girlfriend left him. He pretended it was mutual. It wasn't. Margaret resigned from 3 charity boards, 2 community organizations, a private women's club. She told everyone she was taking time for herself. No one believed her. Her husband, Leonard, discovered the truth halfway through the restitution process. He found the confession, found the documents. He packed a suitcase and left the same night, filed for divorce 3 days later. Rebecca confronted her at the kitchen table. You ruined our lives, she screamed. We could go to prison because of you. Daniel yelled too, not out of morality, out of fear. They blamed her, not themselves, of course. They never once apologized to me. Not yet. Over the next 6 months, Margaret completed restitution on schedule. Every dollar returned, with penalties and interest. She moved into a small apartment, sold nearly everything, her jewelry, her furniture, her designer clothes. The woman who once strutted through parties now stood in grocery lines clipping coupons. And still, I felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, no relief. Just emptiness. Then came the day Patterson called. Sarah, he said, everything has been repaid. I sat down, quietly. Thank you, I said. You should know, he added carefully, Margaret isn't doing well. That's not my problem, I replied. He hesitated. If she reaches out, she won't, I said, and if she does, I won't answer. Understood. He hung up. I stared at the wall for a long time. $4.2 million, returned, restored, but the scars remained exactly the same. Weeks passed. For the first time in years, I felt something close to stability. I fixed the roof, replaced the furnace, bought real groceries. I upgraded my job, moved to a better company, started saving, started breathing. But trauma doesn't vanish, not even with justice, not even with money. Some nights I still woke up shaking. Some mornings I still hesitated before checking the mailbox, half expecting another lie. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock at my door. I froze. When I opened it, Rebecca stood on my porch. She looked different, deflated, tired. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't move. "Please, just 5 minutes." I let her in. She sat on the edge of my couch, hands twisting nervously in her lap. "I didn't know," she said immediately, "about the money, about the trust, about anything." I didn't respond. "I mean,
I knew things didn't add up. Mom always said the money was hers, but I didn't know she stole it. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I waited, silent. She continued. I know what she did to you was unforgivable. I'm not here to make excuses. I just needed to say it, needed to tell you I'm sorry. I looked at her. Rebecca. Beautiful, privileged, raised in wealth that wasn't hers. Did you ever wonder why I lived like that? I asked quietly. She looked down. Yes. And did you ever ask? No, she whispered. Silence stretched. Finally, she stood. I won't bother you again. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. She walked toward the door. Stopped. Sarah, I hope someday you find peace. Then she left. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't forgive her. But I heard her.
A week later, Daniel reached out. He didn't come in person. He called. I let it ring twice before answering. Sarah, he said, voice tight. I just wanted to say, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I said nothing. You have to believe me, he insisted. If I had known, I would have... You would have what? I asked quietly. Stopped spending the money? Refused law school? Refused the down payment on your condo? Silence. That's what I thought. That's not fair, he snapped. I almost laughed. Fair? Nothing about my life had been fair for years. You benefited, I said. You just didn't ask questions. That's not the same. It is. It's exactly the same. Another long silence. Finally, he said, I'm sorry. I didn't answer. He breathed shakily before hanging up. A week later, Rebecca apologized. Daniel apologized. Months passed. Margaret never called. Not once. Part of me expected her to. Part of me feared she would, but she didn't. And that told me everything. Eventually, I upgraded my house. New floors, fresh paint, new appliances. It still felt like my mother's house, but now it felt alive again. I got promoted at work, doubled my salary, started a retirement account, started therapy. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future that wasn't built on grief, or survival, or fear, a future that was mine. But trauma lingers in quiet ways, the way I checked locks twice before bed, the way I froze every time the phone rang, the way I felt guilty buying anything expensive, even with millions in my account. One day, my therapist asked, "What do you want now that you have your life back?" No one had ever asked me that before. I didn't have an answer. Not yet. Months later, I received a certified letter. From Margaret. My pulse spiked. I debated throwing it away, burning it, ignoring it. But eventually, I opened it. Inside were two things. 1, a letter. 2, a cashier's check for $1, the final legal requirement of her restitution. The letter was short. Sarah, I know you will never forgive me. I know I destroyed the only family bond we had left. I have nothing left to give except this. You were right. I was jealous. You had your mother's love, and I never did. I hated you for it. I hated her for it. I hated myself most of all. I rewrote the story so many times in my head that eventually I believed my own lies. I don't expect anything from you. Not forgiveness,
not sympathy, not even acknowledgement. I just wanted to put the truth in writing, for once. I'm sorry. Margaret. I stared at the letter a long time. Not crying, not shaking, not angry. Just tired. I put the letter back in the envelope, placed it in a drawer. I kept the check, too. Not because I needed the dollar, but because it symbolized something I couldn't name. Closure, maybe, or the end of something that had been eating me from the inside for years. I didn't write her back. I didn't call. I didn't forgive her. But I didn't hate her anymore either. Hatred takes energy. I didn't have any left for her. I chose myself instead.
Spring arrived. Warm, bright, new. I planted flowers in the front yard, something my mother always wanted to do, but never had time for. For the first time since she died, the house felt like a home again. Not a tomb, not a battleground. A home. One Saturday morning, I stood in the driveway sipping coffee. A car slowed in front of my house. A familiar one. Rebecca's husband, Tom, stepped out. He approached slowly, hands in pockets. "Hey, Sarah." "Hey." He hesitated. "Rebecca and I are divorcing." I wasn't surprised. The cracks had been visible the night of the birthday party. "I'm sorry," I said. He shook his head. "No, don't be. It was coming. She and I, we were never on the same page after what happened." He paused. "I just wanted to tell you, I believe you, about everything, and I think you handled it better than anyone could have." I shrugged lightly. I did what I had to do. He nodded. "That's why I came, to say that you didn't just take your life back. You exposed the truth. You made things right." I didn't know what to say to that. He gave a small smile. "Take care of yourself, Sarah." "You too." He got back in his car, drove away. For a long time, I stood in the driveway, listening to birds, feeling sunlight on my skin. And I realized something. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for justice, not for apologies, not for healing. I wasn't waiting for my life to start. It already had. My mother was gone. My aunt was gone. My cousins were gone. But I was still here, alive, standing, free. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. In the months that followed, life settled into something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the loud, triumphant kind, the quiet kind. The kind that sits beside you in the morning sun and doesn't ask anything of you. I kept going to therapy, kept going to work, kept fixing the house, slowly, gently, in ways that felt like healing instead of obligation. Sometimes when I opened a drawer or moved a box, I found something of my mother's. A scarf, a photo, a grocery list written in her quick, looping handwriting. And it hurt, but it didn't crush me. Grief, I learned, doesn't disappear. It softens. It reshapes you. It becomes a shadow you learn to live beside. One evening, I sat in the living room with all the lights off. The house was quiet, warm, mine. I thought about Margaret, about how completely she'd destroyed her own life, about how every choice she made had brought her exactly where she ended up, about how she'd never once taken responsibility until she had no choice left. People say revenge doesn't bring peace. Maybe they're right. But justice, accountability, those bring something better. They bring clarity. Margaret didn't ruin me. She tried. She almost succeeded. But in the end,
I survived her. I outlived her cruelty. I reclaimed everything she stole, and I did it without becoming her. That mattered more than I expected. I stood up, turned on a lamp. The house glowed with soft amber light. I whispered, quiet enough that only the walls could hear, "Mom, I'm okay." For the first time, the words were true. I didn't need closure from Margaret. I didn't need forgiveness from my cousins. I didn't need validation from anyone. I had my life back, and I wasn't giving it up again. Not for anyone, not ever.